Well, this is unexpected. Cursor just bought the fastest AI model, and I have a lot to say about it. I also interviewed the team, so make sure you stick around for that. If you watch tech videos on YouTube, you've probably already heard about Cursor, the AI code editor that's based on VS Code. If you've kept up with my crazy history with these Copilot alternatives, you've probably also heard about Supermaven, the blazingly fast VS Code and NeoVim extension that literally makes recommendations on every single keystroke. I loved Supermaven as soon as I first tried it, and I was never a huge fan of Copilot. That said, I like Supermaven so much that I ended up investing in them. Eventually, though, the UX wins in Cursor were too much to ignore. After watching WebDev Cody posting about how we used it for refactors, I knew I had to bite. Again, I got hooked. And again, I reached out to invest. Since I'm an investor, I got the scoop on this merge a little bit early. And since I'm a YouTuber, they were down to let me break the news. They even let me interview them. I wouldn't have invested if I didn't genuinely like the teams and what they're building. But I do have financial ties, so I am inherently biased. So yeah, account for that. If you want to see my whole interview with the team, it'll be linked in the description. It's going on the Throwaways channel because it's long. But I will be taking the official announcement as well as clips from that interview and using those to try and explain what's going on and why it's important. So without further ado, let's look at the announcement. Supermaven joins Cursor. The two team up to build the next phase of AI coding. Bold statements, but these are bold companies, and I can't imagine many others are positioned properly to make this happen. I'm excited to announce that Supermaven is joining Cursor. They immediately open by talking about Jacob Jackson's history. It's nuts. This is a very short summary. Let's hear it from him real quick.
I'm Jacob. Until recently, I ran Supermaven, and now I am excited to run Supermaven as part of Cursor. I started Tab9 back in 2018 and launched in 2019 Tab9's deep learning version, which I believe was the first application of a large transformer language model to write code. And since then, the space has expanded by a huge amount. When I first started it, people were pretty skeptical that it would even be useful to use these models to write code. And since then, it's taken off. Many millions of people are using these tools every day, and the space has become much more competitive, and the utility to people has become much greater. And we're seeing larger and larger spend by enterprises on these tools because they see the value they can bring. And I think that's only going to continue.
He ended up going to OpenAI to make more stuff happen there. Then he quit, started making what I would consider one of the most effective AI models for doing code stuff. But why are they joining together? Well, in their own words, we have a lot to do, and it seems like we can build a more useful product faster together. Each of us believe that AI makes possible a much better way to build software, that purpose-built models, a tailored editing experience, and lots of clever ideas are necessary to get there. In case you haven't been keeping up with the history, Supermaven raised a bunch of money and announced they were about to do a full editor themselves, no longer just being a VS Code and NeoVim extension. I'll let them explain real quick why they went in that direction.
Yeah, I think, as a researcher, it's tempting to think that you can just focus on the models and, leave the UX till later. The fact is that model development and the user experience and interface to use that model have to be tightly connected, which is something, Cursor has always understood. And I think you can start from a place of making a really smart model, but eventually you realize that in order to get the full benefits of the smartest possible model, you need to own the user interface, which means you need to have an editor.
Yeah. We really think about, as coding changes, like getting to a place where you kind of invent a new style of programming, make programming much more productive with AI as like this whole widget problem. And we think that there are big benefits, and we think actually one of the challenges some other folks are having in the space is they kind of separate out model and product. We think there are big benefits to having a team that's really tightly coupled there.
And if you're curious, yes, this does mean the Supermaven IDE is formally dead, but it doesn't mean Supermaven is dead. In fact, we have some exciting news about Supermaven coming up. Of course, they call out what to expect, which you should have caught on to by now. The goal is to make it so the autocomplete in Cursor is way faster and a good bit better too. I know I've missed the speed of Supermaven as I've used Cursor more and more. Knowing that speed's going to come to the editor I already prefer is very, very exciting. But if you're already happy with Supermaven in your editor of choice, don't worry. It's not going anywhere.
We've got over 50,000 people continuing to use Supermaven. That's not going anywhere. We're going to continue to maintain the service, maintain the quality that everyone has come to expect. And, it's actually still growing. And we're excited for that to continue.
From my perspective, it seems like there's a pretty strong angle here, not just them maintaining Supermaven for sentiment, but using it as a lever to get people to try these tools more meaningfully. I know a lot of people aren't interested in leaving behind their existing VS Code and certainly not leaving behind their NeoVim configs. So they're not going to try Cursor without a lot of push. But if they can try an extension like Supermaven, get hooked on what it offers, and see that Cursor can go further with it, that makes more sense. And there's even a future I could imagine where Supermaven kind of becomes Cursor Lite for every editor. Because Cursor, the company and the team there, they just want to make Cursor as great as possible. They're not focused on other editors. Supermaven historically has been far too deep in these other editors, and makes a lot of sense for them to maintain that while also helping the main Cursor company and the main Cursor IDE make the best possible model for what they're doing as well. That's all I got on this one. I'm genuinely really hyped to see what ends up happening with Cursor here, and I missed Supermaven. It's really good to be able to talk about it again and explain to y'all what the future looks like. So let me know what you think. Are you excited, scared, or something else? And until next time, peace nerds.